Okay, everyone, welcome to our webinar for today, sponsored by WebEx, our fine friends at Insurance WebEx. This is a live program, so I will be able to monitor your messages and questions and chat and all that sort of stuff. So I hope if you have a question or something to comment on, just put in the chat box or the question box. I'm trying to monitor both as we go here. And there's my email address. If you have any questions that come up later, that occur to you later, or you just, for whatever reason, we don't get an answer during this program, then feel free to send it to Bill Cates at referralcoach.com. That goes straight to me. Yes, we are recording this. I do not send out the slides per se, but I will send you a link to the recording. We put it up on YouTube, and certainly you can fast forward to catch some of the slides if you want to do it that way, or do a screen capture, et cetera, et cetera. So we are recording, and by all means, you can feel free to share it with other folks in your firm. So I want to start with a couple of principles before we get into the main program here. Principle one is a confused mind will not buy. A confused mind will not take action. And that's the reason why I've labeled this, the overarching theme of this particular program is clarity. And it's clarity for you, it's clarity for prospects, it's clarity for clients. A lot of different ways to look at this all-important word clarity and how it impacts our business. Because without clarity, we don't have the confidence to move forward, generally speaking. And the second principle was just what I alluded to, is the confidence, right? So first we have to get clarity, then then the confidence comes, and then action. In fact, working with your clients, working with prospects, I think one of the biggest promises you can make is that you're going to help them get clear on where they are, where they want to be, what they need to do to get there, and that will breed confidence and action. And I think that's what most clients want, do they not? They just want clarity and confidence that they're on the right road, et cetera, et cetera. So those are the overarching principles that go in today. A little more formal agenda. We're going to talk about the clarity of your market, making sure that you're nicely niched, if you will. We're going to talk about the clarity of your ideal client and making sure that you're putting out the right message to get the right folks to you. What you put out there is what comes back to you. And if you're just looking for anybody, you get just about anybody. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the clarity of the message and how you can really pinpoint your value and attract the right people to you, and I guess repel the wrong people. I hate to use the word repel, but you know what I mean. You don't want to be taking on people that don't fit. And then the clarity of your process has to do with making sure that prospects understand what it takes to do business with you, what that will look like moving forward, so they feel clear and they feel good. Any kind of confusion, if you ever sense there's any kind of confusion with prospects, clients, if somebody expresses that, then there's a good chance there's other people that are also having that confusion, and they're not sure what to do next. And then clarity for your clients. I want to finish this up with a nice little process you can bring to your prospects and clients pretty quickly. Brand new relationship, and really brings a tremendous amount of value, clarity, and confidence for them to move forward working with you. So that's the agenda. I will monitor messages from time to time, and we have a problem. Here's the problem. We live in an over-communicated society. I don't have to tell you that, right? You're probably doing your email while you're listening to this. It's been estimated that we get about 3,000 marketing messages every 24 hours. And I figured this out once. It's something like, if you figure in your sleep 7 hours a day or a night, it's about 173 or so marketing messages every hour. It boils down to about 3 marketing messages every minute. And so your prospects are over-communicated, you're over-communicated, clients are over-communicated. So how do we get our messages through, right? How do we reach these people that we're trying to reach? Well, a little bit of brain science here real quick. I'm not a neuroscientist, but I've been doing a lot of studying on this, writing my next book. And so the brain, 2 parts of the brain are scanning all the time. The amygdala, what's sometimes called the reptilian brain, is 6 times a second. It's going, am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe? Right? And then the cerebral cortex, about 3 times every second, so still pretty fast, is going, is there an opportunity? Is there an opportunity? So we know that the need for safety, the need for feeling comfortable and confident and safe and secure has about twice the weight, if you will, in the brain. than the opportunity, but they're both very important. So whenever we're talking about our value to prospects and clients and centers of influence, we usually want to hit on both. We want to touch on the part that wants to feel safe and secure, and we want to touch on the part where people perceive an opportunity, because we never know exactly what's going to motivate that one person to take the next step and then the next step. So how do we get through to these folks in this over-communicated world? We've got to hit the bullseye in the brain, right, that resonates with them. And this is about being relevant, being super relevant. That's why the title of my next book is called Radical Relevance, because if we're not relevant, they won't pay attention to us. And if we don't stay continually relevant, then they will lose interest. And then the other side of that, or congruent with that, is we have to be compelling, meaning we have to move people to take action. We'll cover a little bit of that in this webinar, and I'll have subsequent webinars that are going into more detail on some of these concepts. But that's what we got to do, is hit the bullseye, right? So one of the most important questions you can ask a brand new prospect to make sure that the meeting is relevant to them. It could be a client, it could be at your place of business, it could be at their place of business, their home, whatever the venue is. What made you come in today? Or what made you decide to set this appointment? Or what created interest in the work I do? There's a lot of different ways to say this thing, but what we want to figure out is what is their story? What's in their mind that's important to them right at this moment? So we can be as relevant as possible to that. One of the questions that I like to ask, and I recommend you ask if you're getting referred or introduced to someone, is to say, what's going on in their life that's important to them right now? Or what's going on in their business that's important to them right now? And you will come up with, another thing that's very relevant to them. Now, you still want to ask your client or prospect. You say, Mary told me that this is going on. This is on the forefront of your awareness. Is that true? And yeah, that's true. And then there's a couple other things too. So now you can craft what you're doing straight to what you're, bring your topic of expertise straight to what's going on in their world. And then you want to follow up this question with 3 of the most powerful words that you can use in conversation with people. And that is, tell me more, right? Tell me more about that. Go deeper. Some of you like to say, what's important to you about money, or what's important to you about this or that? Tell me more. A genuine natural curiosity will go a long, long way. And you get to know their story, and then you can adapt and adopt what you do to be relevant to their story. So first strategy, I promise, we're going to be market clarity. Let's talk a little bit about this. Not trying to be all things to all people. So I want to emphasize the power of tapping into a target market. This is not a new concept. You certainly understand what this is, but it's important to talk about the benefits, and I'll give you a couple of examples of what some people have done. It's going to be very high content, so I hope you're ready to take a lot of notes. So first of all, it's easier to identify prospects if you have a more narrow niche, a more target market, particularly if you're going after employees in a specific company or in a university, or owners of businesses in a specific industry. The more narrow, really, the better, and you can identify your prospects. You bring better solutions, perceived and real solutions, right? First of all, they perceive you as knowing more about their world because you focus on their world. You can ask great questions that will demonstrate that you understand their world, and you can be more relevant. One of the biggest things that our prospects need from us when we reach out to them is empathy. Empathy for their situation, that we understand what they're going through. And the more targeted in your marketing, the easier that is to create. And then you provide real solutions to these folks. It's not just perception, it's the reality. You can join forces with centers of influence. So let me tell you about a guy named Luke. Luke is in the Midwest, and Luke is, I think, the number 1 or 2 advisor in his firm. And he has a large employer in his town. And he has become the guy, the go-to guy. His newsletter is oriented towards that employer. And he's identified other centers of influence, attorneys and CPAs and other natural centers of influence that he's also can buddy up with, who are also going after the same market. So the market has to be big enough, but not so big that you lose the power of that focus that comes from that. So, people, should I target? Should I not target? Well, the answer is yes, if you want to differentiate yourself. And can you have more than one target? Yeah, of course, although I don't recommend being too disparate, maybe 2 at the most. Start with 1, and you can build up another one. And why do people not do this? Well, quite often it's out of fear. They're afraid that I just focus on this niche, this group, this market, then I'll miss all this other opportunity. And the truth is, you might miss that opportunity, but you'll be so successful in this target market, you won't even notice. It's happened for my business, happens for a lot of folks. So let me give you an illustration of how you can go deeper and deeper and pointier, if you will, towards the bullseye. So let's say, what financial professional doesn't want to work with wealthy individuals, right? Now, maybe you have middle market. I get that, but you'll understand the principles here. All right, let's go a little narrow. How about business owners? We know that a lot of wealth is concentrated in small business owners. So what if we go a little narrow to business owners? And that's not bad. We're starting to bring some value to business owners that perhaps other folks who don't focus on business owners can't bring. But let's go a little deeper. Let's go business owners within a specific industry, right? When I first got started in this business of training and writing and consulting 28 years ago, I was focused on the printing industry because I own a book publishing company. So I went to the owners and the sales managers in the printing industry. And so I could bring more value to them than someone who's more generic with their message. And then you can go a little deeper, right? What about multi-generational business owners? The more targeted, the better. The more value you can bring, perceived and real value, the more easy it is to identify people like them. People know people like themselves. When you start to target a niche and your clients know that, they begin to help you a little bit more. So let me give you a couple specific examples. Tom McDonald out of Albany, just had a conversation with Todd yesterday afternoon. In fact, we've been coaching for, 10, 12 years, and he had a quick question as he was driving to an appointment. So he says, early in my career, I asked many top producers, if you were able to start over, should say, what would you do differently, right? If you were able to start over, what would you do differently? And he says, invariably, the answer was, I'd focus on a target market. I'd stop trying to be all things to all people. Now, there are a lot of folks in this business that have been rather successful being a lot of things to a lot of people. So I'm not saying that you can't be successful that way. It's just getting harder and harder with all the marketing message overload. Now you have competition from the robo-advisors, from, just all kinds of other places. The banks you didn't have competition from before, right? So let me give you an example. So Todd, this is Todd's website, Broadstone Advisors. Now, does this look like a typical website for a financial advisor? Of course not. But if you're in Todd's target market, and maybe you get introduced to Todd and you want to go, let's see who this guy is. Let me look him up on LinkedIn or look at his website. As soon as you land there, this guy knows my world, right? This guy works with other people who are in my world. And on the other hand, it'll disqualify the people that don't work. If you ask Todd, what is your niche? Who do you focus on? He'll say family-owned, closely held, heavy construction companies all over the country, right? He works with companies all over the country. He's established a national reputation for himself because he targets a very specific, clear niche, and happens to be people with a lot of money. So, I always set it aside because, look at this, right? And then you look at this and you go, oh, that's the normal clip art you see on most financial advisors' site, right? The retired couple walking down the beach. But that sends almost no message compared to something like this, right? Let me give you another one. Russ Thornton in Virginia. Russ's firm is called Wealth Care for Women. So you already know who he focuses on is women, divorced and widowed women. I like his website a lot because he shows what his process is. We'll get into process a little bit more, but you can see at the bottom of this page, talks a little bit about we're going to have a call, we're going to do a discovery session, then we're going to create a plan, right? 3-step process, very clear. No secrets, no doubting, no wondering. And what I also like about his website is he talks about his why. Why is this gentleman focusing on women? And he explains about what happened with his mom and how he just saw the importance of this work. And so he made the decision to devote the work he does to women, mostly widowed and divorced. So it's very clear what he does, right? If you're not a woman, will he help you? Yeah, maybe if you're part of the household, but he's really trying to attract the people he wants to work with and not attract the people he doesn't want to work with. And this has allowed him to be tremendously successful in this business. So the bottom line is if you try to appeal to everyone, you run the risk of appealing to no one. The mistake I've seen so many people make, not just financial advisors and agents, but all business owners, we we're crafting a message for our LinkedIn profile, our website, some collateral material, and we often mistakenly make it a little bit broader. Well, let's not limit who this is attractive to, right? Let's make it a little bit, I've fallen into that trap. I still occasionally fall into that trap. But what we really need to do is narrow. And in some cases, we may need 2 or 3 approaches, a different approach to each segment of our market that we're going after, rather than one generic. The more generic, the less valuable, the less relevant, the less compelling, etc. So that's the clarity of market. Let's go into clarity of persona. Now, what I mean by persona, this is a term that's become more and more popular in marketing. The concept's been around forever, but it's the idea of getting super clear on your ideal client. I like to call it right fit client. Some people call it best fit client, but marketers these days are calling it persona. So if you see anything out there about persona marketing, marketing to your persona, that's what this is. And so it's kind of a semi-fictional representation of your ideal client, your right fit client. And generally speaking, again, the more detailed, the better, because you can really hone in to not just the demographic, but the psychographic aspect. So demographic, right? Things like age, gender, financials, occupation, all those sorts of things, which are always very important, that help you target a little bit. But you can really start to target when you start to look at the demographics. So Antonio Damasio, the famed neuroscientist, did a study to find out what drives people to take action, right? What needs to be in place for people to act, to take a step of action. And using this technology called MRT, magnetic resonance tomography, say that 10 times real fast, and he discovered that in the patients and the subjects that he studied that had a part of the brain that was damaged, that could feel emotion, the part of the brain that felt emotion was damaged and they could not feel emotion, these people could not make a decision. No ability to feel emotion, no ability to make a decision. Heck, they couldn't decide if they were going to have wheat flakes or corn flakes the next day. And so we know that at the heart of every single decision that you and I make, at the heart of it, it's emotional. Does it make us feel safe, safer, reduce the risk, or is there an opportunity that we strive for, that we want to, but it's all emotional. So therefore, and by the way, I forgot I had the slide. Antonio says that we're not thinking machines that feel, we're feeling machines that think. So the psychographic aspects, and this is what really allows you to start to hone your message. So you start to get super clear with these people, and you attract the people you want, and you don't attract the people you don't want, right? What are the people in your demographic and psychographic? What are their fears, their concerns, what opportunities are facing them, what challenges, what aspirations? What are the emotional components of their makeup? So you can address that. Why? Because that's why people gravitate towards you. Now, I'm not saying the demographics aren't important. Of course they're important, but we know that if people act because of emotion, we have to make sure we know the emotional components to the decision making. And if we don't go there, we miss a lot of opportunity. So I just took on a coaching client recently who was having a little trouble making his appointments stick. He was making appointments and then they'd cancel. And he felt like he had clients who were interested, and then all of a sudden they weren't interested. And when we got into some of his processes, we realized that he was overloading them with information. He just knew so much about his topic around financial planning and such that he would inundate them and overload them. And people would walk out of his office saying, wow, I just felt like I was drinking from a fire hose. Okay, well, it's nice to know your topic, but that's not what they want. They want a little bit of that. They want to know that you're competent and you understand what you're doing, but they also want to know that you have empathy for their situation. And he was displaying no sense of empathy for their situation. He was all immersed in the facts and the figures. And so this is critical. So here's kind of what a persona might look like, right? This is just something I fabricated that's fairly common for the financial services world, right? Someone who's married, they've got grown children. These are the demographics on the left side. And then you look on the right side, it's some of the motivators, the frustrations, the emotional side of this persona. And so, again, the more narrow, the better. It's recommended you don't have more than 3 personas. You can have more than one, but don't have more than 3. And if you have 3, make sure on your webpage and other ways that you communicate with these folks that they can self-identify very quickly.
So just give an example. If you went to my website, referralcoach.com, you don't have to scroll very far to get the three main personas that we talk to. We talk to individual advisors and agents and reps, business owners. We talk to the leaders, the corporate leaders who might want to bring me in for a workshop or some of our licensing with our video training, and then people who might be interested in hiring me to speak at an event like a conference, right? Those are our three main personas. And so we help people self-identify as quickly as possible. And then they go into a series of website pages that are just tailored to them and what goes on in their decision process. So a big part of this persona marketing, if you will, is about knowing what the decision process looks like for your ideal clients. Your ideal clients do a lot of work on searching on the internet first before they come in or you meet with them. Right? How are you meeting these people? Where are you catching them in the buying process so that you know how to target your message to them? So what is a right fit client for you? Right? I like to use the term right fit client. What is a right fit client for you? Right? Is it a divorced or a widowed woman? Right? Like it is for Russ Thornton. That's a great niche. A lot of folks go after that market and help those folks, and it's wonderful. Could it be affluent couples? Could it be young couples? Maybe not as affluent, but younger and just getting started, right? Again, you can have more than one. It's nice if you have more than one avatar, however, there's at least some synergy there, some maybe even a little bit of overlap, if you will. I mean, it's a little tougher to go after very, very wealthy individuals and then, let's say, younger couples just starting in their accumulating phase, right? Couch potatoes. Well, it's probably not going to be your niche. You know, one of the biggest things that you and I face in our business in terms of bringing in new business is inertia, right? Most of our clients, most of our prospects, I should say, are in inertia. Either they're moving in a certain direction, working with someone, you know, they're heading in a certain way, and it's hard to flip them and turn them to look at us, or maybe they're doing nothing, and it's hard to get them going. They got their head in the sand, et cetera, right? Maybe it's business owners, or maybe it's a little narrower than that. Maybe it's successful business owners, or again, business owners in a specific industry, perhaps. A lot of it depends, of course, on the geography, the size of the town, city that you live in, whether the niche is going to be large enough. It certainly has to be large enough. So the more precise, the more powerful in your messaging, in your targeting. We're going to keep driving home this theme. And if you walk away from this with nothing else, just think in terms of the more precise, the better. The more narrow, the more exacting, the better. Even if we have to create 2 or 3 different messages for 3 different groups, we're going to be more clear with them, and they're going to see it, they're going to gain their own clarity, and they're going to move forward. I see no questions or chats coming in. By all means, I encourage you to, if you have a question or a chat, anything, just let me know. A reminder, we are recording this, and I will send you a link not too long before the day's out. I'll get a link to you. We'll post it up on YouTube. And I'm sharing as much as I possibly can in the short time we have together. And near the end, I'll share with you a way for you to go a little deeper in some of this if you're interested. We started a new program. It's become very popular, so I want to make sure you know about it. All right, so strategy number 3 is message clarity. So we're honing in here, right? Target, persona, what's our message now that we bring to the world? So where do we communicate our message? Well, how about just about everywhere, right? Everywhere we communicate our message, right? What we say, what we write, and not just you, right? But if you have other people that work for you, whether they're assistants, whether they're producers, right? Everybody is always communicating the message. And one of the things I found that a lot of principals in this industry, you know, they kind of are clear on who they serve and who they want to attract, but quite often the rest of the folks aren't on the same page. And so it's always a great exercise to make sure that everyone in the firm is crystal clear on who you're trying to attract, who you're not trying to attract, how you serve them, how you bring that value, how to talk about you, et cetera, et cetera. So what are you trying to do when you're communicating your message, right? When you're writing a website copy, when you're creating your LinkedIn profile, when you're creating a brochure or other collateral material, what are you trying to do, right? Are you trying to attract the right people? Well, hopefully you're narrow enough where you're attracting the right people and they resonate with that. Perhaps you're repelling the wrong people, right? The best messaging is always going to leave some people out, right? And sometimes the more the better, as long as your niche is large enough, so you can focus on what you love to do the best. And so your messages resonate the best with them. And of course, we're trying to create action. I can't tell you how many websites I look at, emails I get, just all the different collateral material I see in this industry. There's very little a call to action. There's very little copy to inspire people to take the next step. Sometimes it's devoid of emotion. Sometimes there's no clear call to action. In marketing and sales, they call it the CTA, the call to action. Just about every email you send to someone, just about every website page, pretty much everything you do, there should be some next step. What's the next logical step? What's that call to action? What do you want them to do? Never assume that a prospect or a client knows what they should do next. To you, it may be completely obvious, but to them, maybe not so obvious. So always working towards creating action, because without action, all the rest of this is really no big deal. And then ultimately, this is what your prospect and client wants to know. Are you right for me? There's a lot of conversation about different. What makes you different? How do you differentiate yourself in the market? And I'm not saying we don't pay attention to that. Of course we do. One of the ways you differentiate yourself in the market, one of the primary ways, is who you focus on, right? Who you do your best work for. But at the end of the day, what your client wants to know is, are you the right person for me? So if you're different, make sure you attach what makes you different to a very clear, specific benefit that's going to attract the right people, and not worry about attracting the wrong people, right? So it's all about creating fit, right? Attract the right people, disqualify the wrong people, create action, determine fit. That's what we're trying to do with our messaging. So let's go deeper into this messaging thing, because I'm doing this in my book and I have a lot of fun with this. And this is tough, right? The old proverbial question, what do you do? And a lot of the coaching I do with individuals, it's really to help people craft what you do in a succinct, clear way. It's not just the elevator pitch. That's a piece of it. We need a short way to answer that question, but there's a lot of ways we have to talk about what we do and get everybody in the firm on the same page. So I have a pretty simple formula I'm going to run you through right now. So first of all, are you an expert? Are you an expert in what you do? Let's look at that definition, right? A person of special skill or knowledge in some particular field, specialist, authority, that is you. Right? Now, I know in the financial services world, some compliance departments don't want their folks to say that they're an expert, right? There has to be this body of evidence that allows them to say they're an expert. But you can use the word expertise. And I like that word anyway, because it kind of softens it up just a little bit. To say to someone, I'm an expert in. Now, I've gotten comfortable saying that. It took a little while for me to do that. You may not feel comfortable or can't say that, but you can say, I have expertise, or my expertise is in a certain topic, a certain body of knowledge. So let's look at the formula. My expertise is in, right? This displays confidence without feeding in the preconceived notion. So I don't recommend, if someone says, what do? Do not say I'm a financial advisor, I'm a financial planner, I'm an insurance agent, whatever. Don't give yourself that label too quickly. The reason why is because people have preconceived notions. They may have a good way of thinking in their brain, right? What's their memory of financial advisors, of agents? And if it's a good memory, then, you hit a good thing maybe. But if it's not, it's not. They may have a negative reaction. So my expertise is, and I'll give you some specific examples here that I've worked with some of my clients. I work with, this qualifies who your target market is, right? It demonstrates. And this can change who you're standing in front of or who you're writing towards, who want to. Now, whatever your target market wants, whatever your persona, whatever your ideal right fit client wants, that's going to speak to emotion. And we know we need to speak to emotion. And since money intersects all aspects of one's life, and there's always emotion around money, it's not that hard for you to get emotion into how you talk about what you talk about. And then I call it the hook. This brings the value to life. It could be a story. It could be the why you do what you do. It could be a very specific example. It could be a comparison. There's a lot of ways to do this. But I found that while those first three steps are very important and very effective, sometimes it needs to come to life a little bit more. And that's that hook, that example or example. So let me give you a couple of examples here. All right, so this is mine. This is what Referral Coach International does, right? My expertise is in showing business how to grow without increasing their marketing budgets. And that creates a little bit of curiosity because most people automatically associate growth with having to spend more money. But I teach referrals. Referrals don't cost anything. All we got to do is get a little more confident in that area and be a little bit more appropriately proactive. Doesn't cost anything at all, just a little courage maybe, right? We work with financial professionals in their companies. It's okay to have a couple there. You don't want a lot, but you could have two, right? Who want to? Well, what do my clients want to do? They want to acquire more ideal clients, through referrals, introductions from advocates, and with more compelling value, right? That's the body of knowledge I bring. I've been bringing for 25 years. That's what people want from me. And there's emotion there because it's business growth, more clients, more ideal clients. And then I have a lot of different examples, and you can have a lot of different examples. And I recommend you really create an inventory of these. And this one is just an insurance company moved away from their $400,000 a year call center. And they built a referral culture within the firm, and they didn't have to use the call center anymore. And talk about a more profitable company, right? All right, for you specifically, maybe you don't have to do seminars anymore, which are expensive. Maybe you don't have to buy leads anymore, right? You don't have to spend money on a lot of those things that maybe you're spending money on if you could just get a little bit better with referrals, with value, with introduction from advocates, right? All right, so let me get the button working here. There we go. So I'll give you a couple of hypothetical financial examples to make it right into your world. My expertise is in financial planning for business owners. So you're already talking a little bit about who you do business with. We work with fast-paced business owners and entrepreneurs. And this is a gentleman that I've been coaching. This is what he came up with a little bit of coaching with me. He says, who want to focus on what they do best, running their business and making money. He found in 10 years in the business that working with busy, fast-paced entrepreneurs, one of their biggest frustrations, right, emotion, was the fact that they wanted to do what their unique ability, what they did best, which is to build their business and not to work on their investments and their insurance needs and all that. They want an expert to do that. They know the value of professional advice, right? If it's a do-it-yourselfer business owner, then that's probably not your right fit client, is it? In fact, my financial advisor won't even meet with someone who's a do-it-yourselfer. I introduced him to a do-it-yourselfer once. He met with him out of courtesy for me, and I didn't realize that at the time, and it just wasn't a good match. So what this gentleman says, I'm like a financial quarterback for my clients, right? I put in place a team to make sure they have all the right insurance, benefits package, et cetera, et cetera. So he doesn't have expertise in all of these areas that will help a small business owner, but he has a team of people within his firm and even outside his firm that he can put together. And he likes the term financial quarterback because he's in the sports and it works for him, and people get it. They get the idea of the quarterback assembling the team and taking the lead over the team. So that's one way to do it. I'll give you another example. Oh, this is a specific case study with a gentleman by the name of Bob. I'll give you his last name to protect the guilty or the innocent. But Bob is a former high-level banker. He's worked with mergers, acquisitions, sales of companies, and he's thinking, Bill, all right, I've got these different niches. I could work with small business owners, and because I know about selling a business, preparing a business to sell it. I could work with financial executives, people who work and manage hedge funds and investment banking firms. I know about ESOPs, so I could work with ESOP companies. He also liked working with women in transition. You can see how that maybe isn't quite as synergistic with the others. I mean, it could be. He could work with women business owners. But he knew that he really wanted to hone in. He really wanted to narrow a little bit more. So we talked, where's your passion? Also, where's the low-hanging fruit? What makes sense for you and type of work you like to do? And so he finally decided to focus on financial executives, right? Managers, leaders of hedge funds, investment banking firms, all kinds of stuff like that. So let me give you what he's come up with so far. It's a work in progress. It's always a work in progress. But this is a real financial example that Bob put together. So my expertise is in financial planning for high-level financial executives. Right? So already he's demonstrating a little separation from the rest of the world of other financial advisors. I work with investment bankers, private equity partners, folks at hedge funds, and specialty lending firms. Now, one could argue that this is a couple too many, And so maybe in writing on a website, he shares this. Maybe if he's speaking to a group or if he's speaking to an individual, he might limit it to 1 or 2 of these if he can, to make it a little easier to say and digest. And who want to work with someone who understands their complicated financial situation so that they're using the best possible strategies at all times. See, these individuals have complicated financial strategies. They believe they are, and perhaps in some respects, they are different than other folks. And they want someone who understands their complicated world. And remember I said earlier that what our prospects want from us is empathy. So the fact that Bob has been in that world, worked in that world for a number of years, he can immediately demonstrate empathy for their world through the things he talks about, what he teaches, the questions he asks. They immediately get that he gets them, right? And just last week, I was able to break the news to one of our hardworking clients, works for a hedge fund. He was able to retire sooner than he had originally thought. He was ecstatic. Now, that speaks specific to the benefit, to the opportunity that's there. He's got other examples that he'll pull in for different situations. But this is, I think you can see how this is a very simple, easy to work formula to help you have that short, succinct way to describe what you do. You have to adjust it for different situations, for different people. I get that. This is not as easy as it may seem. It takes a little time to hone this. But if you work on this and you want to send it to me, be happy to take a look at what you do. Actually, I have a little program that I can share with you in a second that might help you with that if you're interested. So here's the bottom line, guys. You got to be relevant or you're going to be ignored, right? So we've talked about clarity of your market. We've talked about clarity of your ideal client, the persona. We've talked about clarity of your message. I want to talk about clarity of your process and clarity for your clients. But first, I did tell you about a simple program we have. I want to mention it to you very quickly. So hang in there. We only have a few slots available for this, so it's not going to be for everybody, but we're going to get to the rest of the items on the agenda. So this is something I created recently. We found that a lot of people want to tap into my 25 years of experience in helping financial professionals grow their business, but they didn't necessarily want to do our full-blown coaching program. It's not inexpensive, and I get that. So we've come up with kind of a special offer, a way to bring some great value to you. We can't take on too many of these because obviously it's not quite as profitable, although I'm anxious and loving to do it. So we can't take all my time up with this, but it's just a way to build relationships with folks like yourself. And so if you go to CoachCates.com, you can see all the details, CoachCates.com. Knowing how I charge per hour and for the value that's included in this, it's about $920, give or take, but it's yours for $299. Now, we only have 5 slots open every month. We have a couple more open for February, and then we're taking on 5 for March. So here's what you're going to get. You're going to get this radical relevance value proposition generator that has this formula that I just gave you in it and a lot more to help you make sure you really understand your full value. A couple of bonuses. You're going to get our right fit client checklist to help you figure out who is your right client. You get a 6-minute video from me about your mindset around referrals and growth through referrals, and then 2 coaching calls from me and pretty much unlimited email correspondence with me. Once you're in my world, I'm happy to help you any way I can. And so typically what happens is you'll work on the workbook, the proposition generator. We'll have a call set up in a week or 2. We'll go through that. And then in that call, we'll decide what's the next step. What are you going to work on next? And then we'll set up the next call further down the road. And so it allows you to really focus on maybe 1 or 2 issues that you really want to focus on. Just finished doing some work with Charlie. Charlie wanted to create a referral culture in his firm. He has about 9 other people working in his firm. Some are licensed, some are just support staff. I shouldn't say just support staff. They're support staff. They're very important too. Since starting working with me 3 months ago, he's generated more referrals in 3 months than he has in the past 3 years. What you put your attention on grows stronger in your life, and that's one of the things this program will do. So we have a lot of folks that are raving about what we do. We have a couple left for February. Even if you want to just chime in and get on and then start later in March, that's fine. And we want you to be happy. Did you cover the here to there conversation? No. We have not covered, Michael, the here to there conversation yet. We're going to get to that coming up, in fact. So thanks for chiming in on that.
All right, so that's the offer, guys. CoachCates.com. Let's get back to the agenda. Let's talk about process clarity. This is making sure that not just you, but your prospects and clients are extremely clear on what your process. Remember, a confused mind will not buy. A confused mind will not take action. A couple thoughts here. First of all, name your process. If you name your process, maybe you work for a larger company and they've named your process, that's fine. But make sure the process has a name, because anybody can have a process, but only you can have a specifically named process. And that starts to create that separation from competitors without talking negative about competitors. So you want to name your process. You want to make sure that if your process is 3 steps or 5 steps or 7 steps, whatever it may be, Bob's, and the one I was talking to earlier, had 5 steps, and he'll say, this is what we do. And then we say, we have a 5-step process that helps us do da-da-da-da-da-da. And he's still working on a name for that. But we also make sure we attach a benefit, right? So a discovery process. All right, we have step 1 is a discovery process. All right, that sounds nice. But what's the benefit to the client or the prospect for the discovery? Are they going to walk away from the discovery process learning a little something, having more awareness about their own situation before they even make a decision to act on your recommendations? Well, if you have a good discovery process, the answer is yes. So make sure that each aspect of your process is attached to a benefit. Big believer in illustrating your process. Maybe you've heard the term infographics. I'm going to share a couple of infographics that we just developed. And then communicate this process in person, over the phone. I showed you Russ Thornton's process, the 3-step process he goes through. So just make sure that you name it, you attach benefits, you enumerate it, 5-step process, 3-step process, whatever it might be. Now, illustrating. What we've found is that when you illustrate a concept, it tends to go into the brain faster, stays in the brain a little longer. There's a part of the brain called the fast brain and the slow brain. The fast brain takes in the pictures, takes in the images much more quickly than the slow brain takes in the words and the thoughts. And so I'll just share with you a couple of examples. Here we go. So we just came out with these recently. So you may be familiar with our VIPS method for asking for referrals. So you're not begging, you're not pushing. So now we've illustrated this with a graphic. How to turn referrals into introductions, right? How do you do that? And so we make sure that it's very clear. And so anytime you have a process, make sure you bring it to life with graphic representation, even if it's just bullet points on a piece of paper. Make it as simple and easy for people to get. Get the button here. There we go. And now we're into client clarity. So, Michael, this is the here to there conversation. This is something I discovered from a gentleman by the name of Bill Whitley. He calls it the here to there conversation. As long as I acknowledge him, he gives me permission to use that term. And this is a simple thing that you guys, gals, can do over the phone with a prospect. Sometimes you can do it in person. I've seen people get referrals just from this process without even asking, because it just helps the client, the prospect, get clear so that they then have the confidence to take the next step. If you are talking to prospects and while they seem interested, it doesn't go to the next step, it's possible you weren't as clear to them. They still aren't feeling clear, so they don't feel the confident in moving to the next step. So help them see their gap, right? It's the here to there conversation. Where are they? Where do they want to be, etc. So what is their here? Now, when it comes to the financial needs, insurance, investments, all that sort of stuff, some people are very clear on what their here looks like, right? They know their buckets of money. They know what insurance they have in place. They know how much they have through their, benefits package at work, et cetera, et cetera. And some people, as you know, are clueless. And just helping someone get clear on their current is extremely valuable, right? Extremely valuable. And so that's where the value starts, and that's where the clarity starts. Then, of course, you want to help them make sure that they're clear on what their there looks like. Now, it could be 3 years from now. It could be 5 years. It could be a year. It could be 10 years. It could be 20 years. It could be retirement. You can use more than one. So, if you're familiar with Dan Sullivan, he calls it the R factor question. If we're meeting 3 years from today, what has to happen for you to feel really good about your financial situation?
right? Now, 3 years may be a perfect time frame for the people you're dealing with, or it may be longer, or maybe it's a sequence, right? What do you want it to look like when you retire? What do you want it to look like before you retire? A year from today, what would feel better than where you are now, right? So what is there? And you know as well as I do that most people aren't very clear on their there. Some are, but most aren't. And if they've done that work, if they've actually done that vision work and they've gotten clear, they'll love telling you about it, right? And all it does is reinforce it, and they feel good about telling you. So they're here to there. Then what are the opportunities in getting from here to there? You may know some opportunities that they're not aware of. Certainly certain things kick in when they hit certain ages, et cetera. Certain products become more viable when they hit a certain age. And then they may know some opportunities that you don't know, an inheritance down the road, et cetera. So you want to make sure that that gets communicated. And then the challenges that they see coming in front of them. And you may know some challenges that they don't know about. Hopefully you do. And so you have a conversation. And this really is the essence of your plan. They're here, they're there, the challenges and opportunities and how you deal with them. And that's their roadmap for success, right? This brings a lot of value, a lot of value very quickly. As I mentioned earlier, I've seen people do this on the phone with 15, 20-minute conversation. I've had a number of advisors over the years tell me that they've had people call them and say, you know, those questions you asked my friend George, can you ask them me? You know, he couldn't articulate them very, very well, but he said it was fantastic, right? So the key here, guys and gals, is that a few keys. First of all, clarity, right? We want them to be clear so they will take action and hopefully act on our recommendations. Brings a lot of value. Also, what it does is that it makes us more referable more quickly. We want to have a process that our initial process with prospects and new clients, it brings enough value quickly that makes us referable, that we don't have to wait 6 months or a year into a relationship, that just the 1 or 2 or 3 meetings that we bring to them early in the relationship, that's enough for them to want to talk to other people about us, right? We want to be remarkable. What is remarkable? Worthy of remark, right? Worthy of remark. So we got to make sure that we have those processes in place that are worthy of remark. So I'm going to start getting into answering some questions here. Just a reminder, CoachCase.com. It's $2.99. We're going to be highly focused. What do you want to work on? You want to work on your value prop? Do you want to work on just getting a little clearer on how to ask referrals without begging or pushing? Is your process getting stuck in turning those referrals into actual introductions? You want to talk a little bit about centers of influence. So when the CPAs are done with their tax time, you'll be ready to bring them into the fold. Maybe you want to talk about social event marketing and how you can tap into that. A lot of different things we can bring into kind of a hyper-focused coaching. That's what we're trying to do here, right? So let's see what kind of questions we have coming up. All right, so Donna says, back to asking for referrals. Is it better to do it in person or over the phone, or can you do it with an email? Well, let me give you my hierarchy, if you will, Donna, and everyone else on the call around asking. So in person is always the best way because you have more time built in. You can see how people react. I was asking a guy once where I said, Howard Henderson was his name in Greenville, South Carolina. And I said, can we brainstorm a little bit and silence on the other end? And so, silence when we're on the phone with a prospect or client is like deadly to us, right? So finally I said, Howard, did I make you feel uncomfortable? He says, no, Bill, I'm just thinking. So obviously in person is better. The next level would be over the phone, especially if you have a good relationship with that person. And if you come very prepared for this conversation, it's hard to do general brainstorming over the phone. But if you have a specific 1 or 2 people that they know, and you're saying, hey, how do you feel about introducing me to your friend Barbara? Odds are you can do that over the phone very easily. Some people say, Bill, can you ask with an email? You can. I do it because it's my world that, I don't meet with my clients in person all the time like perhaps you do. All my clients are all over the world. But I only will do it in person if I know I have a decent relationship, if they brought it up in the past. I know they know a specific person. How do you feel about introducing me to this person? In which case I can certainly get away with it with an email. And then the last and least effective would be a letter that you send out to your clients. Sending out a letter, it really just doesn't do anything. It maybe plants the seed. If you're going to send a letter out to your clients and related to referrals and introductions, then what you really should do is send a letter that just educates all your clients on how you would handle it if they thought of someone, right? A lot of our clients like to send folks our way. People think should know about the work we do. And I just want you to know that anybody you send our way, all the work we do is completely confidential. They won't learn about your situation from me and vice versa. And we handle this sort of thing with great care. We'll talk about the best way for that introduction to take place so everybody feels comfortable. So, Donna, that's kind of the hierarchy. Mike emailed me a question. That's great, Mike. I'll look at it as soon as I can. And then we have one more from Ryan. Ryan wants to know about the difference between introduction and referral. So, you hear me use the word referrals and introductions kind of interchangeably, but really when we're in face-to-face or phone-to-phone with a client, with a prospect, with a potential center of influence, we want to use the word introductions because that's what we want. We want a connection, right? We want an email introduction. We want to break bread together at a golf course, whatever, a social event, whatever it might be. We want a connection. So we want to make sure when we're actually speaking to clients, prospects, centers of influence, that we favor the word introduction. So I hope you guys have found this helpful. That's all the questions. You're great, Ken. Ken says, just what I needed to hear, and my pleasure. And so we'll have more of these. Insurance WebEx and I have contracted for 4 of these over the year. If you come into my world, I'll tell you how to do that. I'll send an email with a little follow-up to this. I'm going to send you one of those infographics that I showed you. You get one of those. And then we're going to have other webinars that we'll be offering as well. So hope you found this helpful. I appreciate you attending and paying attention. And I'll finish with a question I always like to ask. Who are you going to be introduced to today? Go get it.